One more minute and then we will start.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our online event. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our online event. We are going to start with Dr. Faiza Al-Dukhli, who is head of English department, and she's going to welcome our speaker. Dr. Saif Al-Nimani, who is the head of scientific research, will give you the closing remarks at the end of our presentation. A feedback form will be shared with you in the chat box, so can you please kindly take some time to complete it. Also, speakers' contact email will be shared with you in the chat box, and you can contact our speaker if you are interested in following up her research. So the floor is yours, Dr. Faiza. I'm muting myself. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Erina, for walking the audience on what's going to happen. Yeah, so yeah, the event is going to be recorded and live streamed on our YouTube channel as well. We have shared these details with you all. So ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure today to introduce our esteemed speaker who will be enlightening us on a very fascinating topic. Reflective journaling in the classroom, fostering metacognition writing ability and positive effects. With a deep passion for education and wealth of expertise in this field, our speaker is a true advocate for innovative teaching practices that empower students. Our speaker, Dr. Samira Musawi, is an experienced educator and researcher with over 15 years of experience teaching at the tertiary level. She holds a PhD in English language teaching and educational psychology, and is dedicated to promoting active learning and autonomy among English as a foreign language learners. She also participated in various academic and professional fellowships, the most important of which was at Boston University, USA, as a Humphrey Fellow. Her research interests include English language teaching, learning, English language teaching, learning, effect in language learning, academic writing, introspective research, assessment, and educational technology. Through her research, she aims to improve the learning outcomes and experiences of EFL students and to advance the field of language education. As for the presentation topic, reflective journaling in the classroom is a pedagogical practice where students engage in the process of introspection, self-reflection, and written expression to enhance their metacognitive abilities, writing skills, and emotional well-being as well. It involves regularly recording thoughts, observations, and experiences in a personal journal, allowing students to explore their learning processes, analyze their thoughts and feelings, and make connections between their academic knowledge and real-life situations. I hope I did explain a little bit about the topic the right way. So everyone, prepare to embark on a thought-provoking journey as our Dr. Samira unpacks the benefits of reflective journaling, providing actionable strategies and insights that can be implemented immediately in your classrooms. Get ready to discover how this simple yet profound practice can unlock students' self-reflection, deepen their learning, cultivate a positive and empowering educational environment. Without further ado, please join me in warmly welcoming our esteemed speaker, whose expertise and passion will undoubtedly leave indelible mark on our understanding of reflective writing in the classroom. Thank you very much, Dr. Samira, for joining us today. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Faiza. Thank you as well to UTAS for inviting me for this presentation. It's really an honor working with you. And I hope that the audience also will be will have some insights on this topic and probably give me some feedback at the end of the presentation. So as you introduced, this presentation is entitled Fostering Metacognition, Writing Ability and Positive Affect through Reflective Journaling in the Classroom. So by affect, I refer to the psychological aspects of learning. And so this study is aiming at enhancing positive affect among the other benefits of reflective journaling. So I will be proceeding through a brief introduction on the research aims and questions and a quick idea about reflective journaling. And then we'll explain the methodology of research, and then we'll move to research findings. So the study is actually still ongoing, although it is in the final stage, but I will be presenting some preliminary results. And then I will conclude with some implications and answer the research questions, and finally stop at a workshop activity to share with the audience. Right. Well, at the beginning, I would like to have an idea, or maybe to ask the audience to reflect or to give us ideas on what they know about reflective journaling. So if you don't mind, could you please leave your answers in the chat box by answering some of these questions. The first one is, what is the first idea that comes to your mind when you hear or read about reflective journaling? And then I will be asking you whether, the extent to which you are familiar with reflective journaling, and whether you used it as a teacher or as a student, probably some time ago. And if so, for what purposes? Could you please leave some answers on what you know on reflective journaling in the chat box? Brief answers, maybe just phrases or words. So what is reflective journaling for you? Yes, I'm waiting for some answers. All right, self-awareness, regular reflection on practices, thinking about one's thoughts, right? Reflecting on my practices, keeping a record of personal experiences, right? Any more? Yes. So training students, training students to voice or state their inner feelings, understandings, emotions, right? Reflecting on what was learned in the past and how it applies to personal life used in my grad school studies, right? Self-reflection, recording, keeping in notebooks, showcasing teachers how students think, right? Any more? Okay, showing teachers how student thinks. Yeah, that was the last one. Inviting teachers to be reflexive. Okay. All right, so how familiar are you with reflective journaling? That is, I would like to know whether you have tried it, you have had experience as a teacher or as a student or as a person, like in general. So have you used it, and for what purposes? So tried it personally as well as with students. That's great. Used in my personal capacity, right? Any more answers? personal use, reflection on teaching. That's great. So personal and professional. Usually try to use it after exams with students currently, right? That's very important. I've tried it for a semester as a teacher. And then as a teacher, I used it as a tool to collect data. That's great. Maybe you could share some ideas with us later on, Mr. Mahmoud. And then as a student in elementary years, used it to record weekly reflection. That's great. As a child, we had a journal in class once a week. That's amazing. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for sharing your ideas. So I would be myself sharing my ideas. Actually, research. We are working on or we've been working on a research project on this during this semester. And as I mentioned earlier, this is the last stage of data collection at the post stage or the post-study stage. So I will be discussing more ideas about this in this presentation. As you can see, reflective journaling is not a new concept in writing research, and it is not a new concept as well for teachers. So many of you seem to have an idea or to have experienced reflective journaling in your classroom or as a person, in your personal life, or maybe as a student. And it is widely researched. In the literature, you can find plenty of references on the use of reflective journaling, but mainly from a qualitative point of view. So there is very little or no research conducted quantitatively in this regard. In this study, we attempted, myself and my partner, Dr. Salah Arizavi, he's not here, but he's been working with me. So we attempted to approach reflective journaling from different perspectives. So we implemented a quasi-experimental design and mixed methods, both quantitative and qualitative. We used the qualitative technique to collect data on learners' reflections using Gibbs' reflective model. It includes 6 stages. I will be explaining them later on. The reflective journals were guided through strategy instruction, where we taught metacognitive, cognitive, and socio-affective, as well as reflective strategies. And these were supported through feedback, constructive regular feedback on a weekly basis. We used 2 different types of reflective journaling. And we used dialogic journaling, where the students and teachers would communicate through dialogue, which has to do with like providing written feedback on their personal journaling on a weekly basis. And that's also related to the course of writing. I forgot to mention that. So we also used collaborative journaling in the second part of the semester. And in this type, we aimed at having students work collaboratively in teams of 3 students with written feedback from the researchers or from the teachers. Briefly, I would like to refer to what other researchers think of reflective journaling and for which purposes they were used and which benefits they have gained from that. So reflective journaling refers mainly to personal records, as some of you mentioned, of learners' learning experiences. It can also reflect on teaching as well. And whether it's in academic settings or creative writing, reading, let's say in project preparation or other kind of learning experiences, it can be used to boost student learning, support their development, their writing abilities, and assess the level of their reflection. That's according to Ahmed, 2019. It was also used by Ramadani, in which students used instructions for the reflective diary to track their metacognition development while they write the explanation text. And in their findings, they found that reflective journaling principles can be applied to track students' development of metacognition in writing. In another study, reflective journaling was used as semi-structured, and it's been, it was very helpful. That's the type we use as well. And it has been proven to be very successful in fostering students' perceptions of their ability to regulate their cognition. And this is from a metacognitive side. So reflective journaling also ensures students' engagement in meaningful, independent, self-discovery learning, which would result in autonomous learning and self-regulatory learning as well. Reflective journaling can best be measured can best measure and raise students' awareness of their metacognitive and affective strategies. Affective strategies are related to mainly using some psychological aspects or strategies to enhance or facilitate learning. And this is while developing, of course, a knowledge basis of academic writing skills. So our study is also related to academic writing. And here the research aims that we worked on. So in this study, we wanted to explore the effects of implementing reflective journaling on learners' metacognitive awareness and abilities, their writing strategies, mainly the major strategies such as paraphrasing, summarizing, organization as well, and so on and so forth, self-reflection and critical thinking skills. So all of these are higher order skills, as well as their positive affect, that is enhancing their motivation, writing confidence, as well as positive attitudes. We also targeted micro level skills, but from, let's say, a lower to a lower degree. So based on these aims, these are our research questions. What is the learner's pre-existing knowledge of self-reflection, writing strategies, and affect level? We attempted to find out about their background through using a pre-test and a pre-survey. And in what way or ways does reflective journaling enhance metacognitive awareness and critical thinking skills? That's one of our major aims. What aspects of writing can be improved through reflective journaling? So as I said, we targeted both the macro and micro levels. How does reflective journaling promote positive affect, that is motivation and self-efficacy or confidence level? As far as the research methods, we use, as I said, quasi-experimental mixed methods, combining quantitative and qualitative. We used participants, like 64 CPS students who have been having an academic writing course in the credit sciences. And we had both an experimental and control groups to compare the results at the end of the study. Regarding the instruments, so to collect data on students' pre-existing knowledge about those aspects, we use the pre and post tests and pre and post surveys. So the post tests and post surveys are not yet analyzed because it's just, we've just collected the data and we still are still in the process of organizing them. We use reflective journals through templates throughout the semester. So we had several, let's say, weeks through which we collected the journals from students. And we had also 2 focus group interviews, one in the first part of the semester and the other in the second part of the semester, to track their progress and also to see the extent to which they grasp the idea of reflections or reflective journaling, as well as see the benefits they've gained and challenges, etc. So for the analysis, we're aiming at conducting quantitative analysis for the pre-test and post-test, pre and post questionnaires, and a qualitative or thematic analysis of the reflective journals and the focus group interviews. This was a procedure and timeline we followed. So quickly, I will explain these. So we first administered the pre-test and pre-survey in the first week of the semester, and then we, throughout several weeks, we taught writing, mainly strategies related to metacognition, cognitive strategies as well. And we provided feedback on their writing as well as their journals. We assigned journal entries using the Gibbs model. And the first part was devoted to dialogic journaling, and the second part was devoted to collaborative journaling. So then we conducted one focus group interview on reflecting on the writing, as well as reflective journaling experiences. And we did the same again at the sometime before the end of the semester. In the second part as well, we carried on teaching other strategies, and we somehow focused on revision, because the students were mainly doing some kind of, I would say, continuous, they were targeting, like working on a project, and they needed to develop very strong strategies to complete their project, and also to prepare for their midterm and final tests. So in the second part, as I said, we used collaborative journaling, and we also provided feedback to enhance their journaling strategies. At the end of the study, we administered a post-test and post-survey, and as I mentioned, we only have preliminary results. We still are not yet in the process of analyzing the post-study results. So regarding the research findings, I will be giving, as I said, some results related mainly to the pre-study survey and the pre-tests. We do have results, but we need to compare them to the post-test results, which are not yet ready. And so, as you can see, we ask the students to reflect, to answer questions related to the level of familiarity with the reflective journals. So we compared the experimental group and the control group, as you can see. Somehow, many of them used it for a while. They used reflective journaling for a while. It could be for personal reasons or maybe at school. And a small number, let's say 13% versus 12% of them used it before. However, about 38 versus 17% in the control group said that they never used it before. We also asked them on the purposes of using reflective journals in the past. So we suggested some options or answers. So never used reflective journals before to improve writing in English, to develop personal skills, general English, learning a subject, etc. So as you can see, many students seem to have somehow used it for specific purposes, but yet in our study, like while teaching them, we found out that many of them do not know how to really reflect on their writing or on, let's say, other experiences. Once again, we also, let's skip this one. We also asked them on the, let's say, discussing or maybe answering, let's say, what they hoped, let's say, to improve out of using reflective journals. So that was before the studies I mentioned. So we gave some suggestions: brainstorming, outlining and organizing, annotating, note-taking, etc. So these are the targeted strategies of this semester. And so we wanted to focus on them. Most of the students seem to be willing to embark in using reflective journaling to enhance these skills. On the other hand, from the effective side, many students seem to have, let's say, plan to improve their motivation or enhance their motivation level, attitudes towards writing, confidence level in writing, self-encouragement strategies, etc., through using reflective journaling. So I'm going to show also some results from their reflective journals, so some samples of students' answers. And here I would like to refer to Gibbs' reflective model. So we used, we went through these stages, and we guided the students through questions to make it easier for them to conduct their or to answer the journal entries. So description, they were asked to describe the task they were doing and describe also their feelings, how they felt about the task before the task, during the task, and after the task. Evaluate and analyze the situation or the experience, although many students found it a bit difficult, but the questions were somehow helpful. And finally, conclude and come up with an action plan for future experiences. And that included further strategies to use to enhance some specific tasks of writing. So this is a template that we prepared, and we've got several templates based on the focus of the course or the unit. So, for example, I can refer to one or two questions here. For example, what was the topic for which you brainstormed and planned ideas? How did you brainstorm ideas? We were interested in the process. That's quite important. And then in the feelings, how motivated were you before, while, and after doing the task, and why? As for evaluation, did the planning process go well? Why or why not? Do you think planning would help you in the next task, etc.? In case the process was easy, what made it easy? So we asked them to refer to their strengths and weaknesses. If it were challenging, what made it challenging? And so, as for the action plan, we asked them to tell us what they were planning in order to enhance their essay strategies, etc. So I'm going to, as I said, refer to some of their answers. So this is an answer from a high achiever. It means one who did well in the pretest, as well as like a student whom we know was or is a high achiever, especially through their performance in the classroom. So she mentioned that the reading passage that she annotated and took notes on was on this topic, the cyclone Gonu. The purpose of writing notes is to understand the text. The audience were the teacher and students. So it is very important for them to know or to raise their awareness on audience, on audience needs and expectations. She said, I annotated the text by highlighting the essential words and phrases, writing definitions of words, writing notes in the margin, etc., etc. As for her feelings, she said, before the task, I was unsure if I would be able to annotate correctly, although during the task, I gained confidence in my annotating skills. So she was unsure, she was uncertain, probably a little frustrated, but then she gained some confidence as she started doing the task. And then in another, she said, before the task, in another task, she said, I was not very motivated to annotate as I was worried that I will not annotate the text correctly. So that kind of fear or that kind of anxiety affects their motivation level. She said, I gained more motivation on completing the task as I did it, it did not seem to be complicated. So then when she found out that the task was not difficult, she gained more motivation. After the task, I felt more confident in my ability to annotate and text better in the future. It means that her motivation was enhanced as a result of trying the task and working on it. The evaluation of the task, she said, the annotation and note-taking process went well because most of the phrases I highlighted were essential. Of course, they already received a course on that. That's why this is like the result of the course and the strategies they used. Annotating and taking notes makes synthesizing the text easier because I understand the text deeper and engage intensely with the text. She said, I encountered a challenge where I found it difficult to only highlight the very important phrases. It was difficult for many of them to know which phrases or sentences or parts of, let's say, the text were important, as some terms seemed important to me, but were not important in the text. So that kind of evaluation is difficult for them. The positive aspect of my annotation and note-taking experience is knowing how to annotate a text and take notes. And then she said, moreover, there was no negative aspect in my annotation and note-taking experience. The process of annotation and note-taking was easy because we just had to underline the important phrases and keywords. Finally, the conclusion, she said, I learned that I must not highlight all the phrases in a text, only critical ones and keywords. And then she added that these strategies will help us collect the main ideas and significant information. The teacher's feedback in the classroom helps me to realize my mistakes, that is to identify them, understand them when annotating. And she said that I will use the teacher's, she said that she will use the teacher's feedback to focus more on the important words rather than the highlighting the long sentences. Her action plan was to enhance or to practice applying these skills in various texts to gain more experience. And she said she will use the teacher's feedback to develop those skills, by applying them next time she annotates a text. So these were taken from a high achiever. Of course, the low achievers did not. Some of them had more challenges, especially at the beginning. I'm going to refer as well to a low achiever's answer in the interview. So I will highlight only some answers. So we asked them to tell us what they think, what helped them in the annotation and note-taking experience. The answer was, the annotation make me to decide which is a main detail or an unnecessary details, which was true. If you can notice, probably, if you can see, the language used is somehow, let's say full of errors. So highlighting makes the information more easy to understand and not to be forgotten. And then we ask them on how many strategies they use in annotation. The answer was several. It depends on the situation, underlining, circling, highlighting, etc. So they do know which strategies to use, but where to highlight and how to conclude, for example, was a bit difficult for them. Another question was related to their confidence level. So the participant said, I think I want to practice more, meaning that he was not self-confident. He said, compared to the past practice, how confident was he? He said, compared to the past, yes, now I feel more comfortable. Comfortable means, at ease means a little more motivated, a little confident, much better than the past. Again, we asked them to tell us about the challenges they faced. So the most difficult things that I faced when I'm doing planning is to determine the main idea of the paragraph. And then it depends on the topic. So it's maybe a hard topic sometimes when the topic is difficult, because it's like the topics were scientific, like somehow challenging, especially in terms of terminology. So probably sometimes when the topic was more difficult, it was harder for them to understand, and so harder to take notes and annotate, etc. Now, I'm going to mention some of the benefits and challenges and the preference of the type of journal, like dialogic versus collaborative. So this is just one sample. I could share several, but I know I wouldn't have enough time to do that. So what were some of the benefits and challenges of collaborative journaling? The participant mentioned that the main benefit was sharing ideas, reflections, developing communicative skills, and saving time, of course. So when they work in collaboration, they help each other, and so they can save time. The main challenge was mainly related to meeting the deadlines, and that was because some of them were not strict enough on deadlines. And they mentioned also that they wanted to improve their communicative skills, which means they lack those skills during that collaborative work. We also asked them which type of journaling they preferred, and the answer was collaborative journaling is great and very beneficial for us, but we find dialogic journaling more convenient for different reasons, of course. One of them was that it's personal, because dialogic journaling was written in a personal, individual students wrote their entries, and the teacher or the researcher would provide feedback. And they said that they can work at ease because they didn't have to meet with other students. Right, so this is the way we provided feedback. So this is a journal template with answers from the students. So this is a collaborative one. As you can see, some of the answers are very brief, so I ask them to detail the answer and to provide a more detailed analysis. In the first one, it was well done, except that probably maybe sometimes some students did not really provide details about the process, which was fine. However, the analysis, they lacked analytical skills. Right, so I would like to go briefly through the results. If you have any questions, you can ask them at the end, but there is actually a brief workshop activity, and I'm not sure, Dr. Faiza, if I have enough time. Is there a possibility to have some extra time to complete the workshop activity? That would be really kind of you.
Yeah, sure, doctor, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much. So based on the results we obtained, of course, not all the results yet, but these are preliminary. We found out that the participants in the experimental group have demonstrated an increased level of metacognitive and strategy awareness. That was through their collaborative, their journals, as well as through the classroom activities. And so examples of these metacognitive and strategy abilities, we've got goal setting based on purpose, audience, and task, differentiating between main ideas and details, evaluating information, analyzing the writing experience, reflecting on their experiences, utilizing feedback, because many of them had difficulties using feedback, let's say, effectively, and making conclusions and decisions for improvement based on their past experiences or reflections. They have also demonstrated improved cognitive abilities, mainly in using those strategies they've learned, such as analyzing information, note-taking, synthesizing text, summarizing, and responding to feedback. As at the affective level, we noticed awareness of their own feelings and frustrations. Many of them were hesitant to express them, but the journals helped them to express and to be more aware of their own feelings, ability to describe and express their feelings and frustrations related to learning, self-motivation before, during, and after performing the task, as you saw in the example I mentioned, acknowledging their own weaknesses, which is somehow hard among many students, turning those challenges into opportunities by using the strengths to overcome the challenges, and increasing self-confidence, which is through mainly using or expressing self-satisfaction, willingness to learn more and perform other tasks. So I would, these are answers to my research questions or to our research questions. I would go through them briefly. I have already referred to these results, but I can refer to them again. So the learner's pre-existing knowledge of self-reflection, writing strategies, and affect level at the beginning, both experimental group and the control group, their metacognitive awareness was relatively low among many participants, and it was average among others. Of course, the students did not have the same level, did not have the same experiences. And after several weeks of reflective journaling and, of course, teaching those strategies, the awareness level among the experimental group has increased significantly. Of course, it was a bit slow among some students. This include their pre-existing knowledge of self-reflection, their reflective journaling, writing processes and strategies, and their affect level. We also wanted to know whether reflective journaling enhanced their metacognitive awareness and critical thinking skills, and we found out that indeed it did. It helped them a lot, of course, relatively among other students. So strategy instruction, that is one of the aspects of the macro level skills. Dialogic journaling, reflecting on writing experiences, which is to a large extent a metacognitive act or experience. And it involves also critical thinking, receiving and responding to feedback on writing. And this also involves metacognitive awareness and strategies, as well as critical thinking, reflecting on the feedback and on reflection, that is feedback on, reflecting on feedback and reflecting on their reflections. It's again, one of the skills of metacognition and critical thinking. And so we think that this question also was answered to a large extent. What aspects of writing can be improved through reflective journaling? As I mentioned them at the macro level, strategy use like planning, annotating, note-taking, summarizing, etc. At the micro level, we mainly focus on language use, such as let's say, academic register related to the genre, topic specific. And it's mainly expository writing, including cause-effect, academic register, as I said, and grammatical structures related to these types of writing. And then how does reflective journaling promote positive affect, or let's say motivation, attitudes, and confidence level? So learning about their own strengths and weaknesses was one aspect. Reflecting on their writing experiences, their feelings, challenges, and successes. This is also an effective aspect. Receiving feedback, responding to feedback, seem to have a large, let's say, to have a great impact on their affective constructs. So by using it positively to improve their writing, so it is on the one hand cognitive and on the other hand affective, reflecting on their reflections and sharing their experiences through group interviews. This was also an effective aspect. All right, so these are some implications and recommendations for future use, or for teachers to use reflective journaling in the classroom. If you want, I can leave them for you to read them later on, or I can simply highlight most important. Actually, all of them are important. So I highly recommend that teachers use reflective journaling in the classroom, whether it be in writing class, reading, for projects, let's say for any other purposes, and they are very, very effective. However, it has to be well guided through maybe templates, but also, and most importantly, through constructive feedback and encouragement from the teacher, especially at the very beginning. They usually need more feedback, more guidance at the beginning. And it is very important that it has these, benefits, like a combination of benefits, metacognitive, cognitive, affective, linguistic as well, and social as well as communicative, if you are intending to use collaborative journaling. We can move on to the workshop activity. I would like to mention some of the limitations, but it's okay. I mean, I can still discuss this with those teachers who are interested after the after this presentation. So for this workshop activity, I'm, let's say, focusing on enhancing critical thinking in student writing. I selected, sorry, there's a mistake here. I selected an activity on the benefits and disadvantages of using artificial intelligence at school. And so this is a paragraph. It is supposed to be a student writing paragraph. I was going to ask the teachers to probably look for some example from their students, but I provided a paragraph, and I would like you, if you are ready, to read the paragraph. I can also share a Google Doc if you want, or you can simply answer in the chat box. So I'd like you to read this paragraph and then try to identify and reflect on some critical thinking skills that are used in the text. So you could highlight one or two or three critical thinking skills from the paragraph. I will share it again, and then I will proceed with other questions. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. So would you like me to share the text on Google Doc, or maybe just go back to the slide? Okay. So here is a paragraph. Read it carefully, and please identify any critical thinking skills. Maybe you could just write phrases. I will give you like 3 minutes if it is possible. Meanwhile, you can ask any questions. I mean, I will answer the questions at the end of the presentation. So if you have any questions about the results, maybe feedback, of course, it's supposed to be at the end, but I thought maybe you could write them down. So comparison and contrast, thank you. So this is one of the critical thinking skills. Any other skills? Benefits and drawbacks, right? So the student is highlighting some benefits and drawbacks of using AI in the classroom or at school in general, highlighting collaborative learning, right? Using examples, predicting drawbacks, right? Others, making judgments, right? So it's kind of evaluation, summarizing, mentioning the drawbacks, okay? Evaluating how beneficial AI is, right? Great. Okay. Any more? So the influence or posing solutions for leveraging benefits, the influence of AI in the field of education, mentioned pros and cons, right? Great. Right, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to proceed to the next question. So now I would like you to, thank you. The writer has reflected on her own experience, right? So the next step is to, in your journal, if you can use Google Docs, you can use a notebook. You don't have to share this one, but you can still write down some answers. I would like you to reflect on analyzing and evaluating the critical thinking skills that are evident in this text. So maybe 1 or 2 sentences for the moment, because we don't have time. But in a real life situation, you could use probably several paragraphs to analyze each of these skills. So could you reflect on, let's say, the use of, or by analyzing, let's say, and evaluating the use of these critical thinking skills in the text? You could share 1 or 2 sentences. You could focus on 1 or 2 critical thinking skills and mention how the student used them. So I'd like to go back to the text so you can do that. Sorry for not paying attention. Okay. Anybody to share their ideas? Okay, so the writer writes about the opinion and counter opinion. In that sense, I use critical thinking abilities, right? So to carry on, you can mention 1 of those abilities and analyze it. The student, sorry again, let's see. The student made a clear distinction of how AI can benefit and at the same time be disadvantageous. The language usage and vocabulary is at advanced level. Great. The student was able to use information and the fact from that he or she was able to reach a conclusion and also make a prediction based on the information that they had on hand. This was especially true when it comes to how they looked at the possible drawbacks of AI. That's perfect, right? Okay, so yeah, reflections can be, I mean, teachers or whether teachers or students, reflections can be very detailed. So what you're doing now is evaluating and analyzing the students' use of these critical thinking skills. And you also mentioned, one of you mentioned how language use contributed as well to the quality of the text. So the student seems to be a high achiever here. Can we hear another reflection and then move on to another question? All right, so the next question, next question is, based on your reflection in task 1, think of specific instructional strategies. You can choose 1 or 2 to enhance critical thinking skills in relation to AI in education, in the classroom, in teaching, in learning, and whatever you think the context is. And then please share 1 instructional strategy in the chat box. So you could write first or think first of specific strategies that you can use in your classroom or in general, like in the educational field in general, to enhance critical thinking skills among students. So I can give you 1 or 2 more minutes. Please share some 1 or 2 strategies. 1 is enough. Maybe you have already used those strategies in your classroom, or maybe you use them as a student as well. Okay. All right, so maybe using projects, maybe mini projects in the classroom where students work collaboratively. This can enhance critical thinking. Okay, that's fine. Asking questions in the class. Okay, so you can give them a provoking, let's say, topic that would elicit, let's say, answers where students have to use their critical thinking skills, open-ended questions, targeting yes, lots and hearts. Participate in discussions, that's very good as well. So using group discussions in the classroom can be used for reading, writing, for other skills. I would teach, give me a second. I would teach them to consider both the positive and negative side of what they are discussing, yes, and address it in writing. Evaluate AI tools and sources, teach students how to critically evaluate AI tools and sources of information, discuss the importance of identifying credible sources, evaluating data quality, that's great. Encourage students to question assumptions, challenge preconceived notions, and seek diverse perspectives. Excellent. Yeah, any more? You could also mention which skill you will be using these strategies. Okay, for visual students, yes. We could use Venn diagrams, yes, and other organizational strategies that can be used useful, so they think, let's say, organically. Collaborative projects, yes, foster collaborative projects that involve designing, developing, evaluating AI systems, encourage teamwork, communication, and critical analysis, that's great. Emphasize the importance of effective communication as students articulate and defend their ideas, that's great. Fostering critical thinking and constructive debate. Analyzing an issue in groups, yes, by comparing and contrasting, justifying their own opinions. You could also use cause effect. You could use problem-solving situations like these. Yes, thank you very much. These are great. So in your reflective journal, you're asked to write another entry by listing 2 or more instructional strategies that you want to implement in your classroom, and focusing on the use of reflective journaling as a tool. So you could also reflect on how reflective journaling can support critical thinking development and provide opportunities for students to analyze and evaluate the benefits and drawbacks of using AI as at school. So you don't have to, let's say, to write a more detailed answer, but you could still do it after this session. Reflecting on these strategies would take probably, more time. So you need to go deep into each strategy and analyze the effectiveness of the strategy and how you can use it. Using shocking statements, prompts to force them to look at issues from other perspectives. That's great. Divergent thinking. Yes, amazing. Otherwise, the brain might be working on automatic pilot. Convergent thinking. That's great. So yes, divergent thinking is really, it's not very common among students who are the initial stage of their learning, but still it can be fostered through such kind of projects or such kind of, let's say, classroom activities, especially group activities and, small group discussions. And when the questions are, formulated, I think it's going to be very effective. And then it depends on the level. So if you're teaching foundation students, I think it can be a bit challenging at the beginning. You've got to start with, simple questions first and then move on to more complex ones. The same thing for activities and strategies. But if you're teaching, let's say, students with an advanced level, you've got more choices, I guess. So finally, I think this is the end. Although I'm ready to listen to whoever wants to keep in touch. You can email me. I can share my WhatsApp number as well. And I would be very grateful to hear your comments on this work as well as your feedback. If you have any questions, please feel free. So Dr. Faiza, maybe they can use a microphone to ask the questions, or they can simply leave the questions in the chat box, and I will be trying to answer some of them as to the best of my knowledge. Thank you very much for all these comments. I really appreciate your participation.
Yes,
Okay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Samira. Thank you. Yes, everyone, if you have any question for Dr. Samira, please, you can either post your question in the chat box, or you can just speak directly.
Mm-hmm.
I have one question.
Yes, please.
Yes, you mentioned when you talked about the micro level of your analysis, about the language use.
Right.
How did you analyze the language use? What was your way of knowing or dedicating a function for each language use or for each phrase, text, clause? What did you do?
Well, in the teaching, like in the classroom, we devoted some sessions for revision, and the revision would involve revising for substance, that is the major aspects of revision, like content, like organization, and so on. And also, we also targeted the micro level, like, as you said, language use. So, for example, the selection of vocabulary, we would provide strategies for them to, and examples, activities, etc., to enhance their vocabulary, especially in relation to the topic, because the topics are, as I said, somehow scientific, and the terminology was a little difficult for the students. So they needed to learn more about the vocabulary and use it effectively. And the same thing for grammar use and grammatical structures. Many of them have difficulties using complex sentences, the direct speech and indirect speech, and for example, because they are writing from sources, they're synthesizing texts and they're paraphrasing, summarizing. So they needed to know or to learn the language of summarizing, the language of paraphrasing, especially paraphrasing. It means the use of synonyms, the use of antonyms, the use of, let's say, different forms of grammar, such as, parts of speech. Sometimes they fail to change the form into something like another form. The use of passive and active voices, These were a little challenging for some students, especially at the beginning. So we would focus on target some of these skills, not independently, but as part of the revision process. And while they're in our feedback, we would highlight some of those mistakes and or errors and ask them to work on them in the next stages. So it is not like a very, very explicit way of teaching these aspects, but the feedback helped a lot, and the revision stage, let's say, process also helped.
Yes, I was actually talking about the analysis process. When now you have the production of students, the text written by students, you as a researcher, how did you analyze this language use? What method have you used? For example, did you rely on discourse analysis? Did you do a corpus analysis? What type of method or instruments have you used to evaluate the language use of students in their writing?
Yes, actually, we are still in the process of the analysis. As I mentioned, we recently finished, maybe just 2 weeks ago. So we administered the post-test and the post-survey, and we'll be analyzing the post-test both quantitatively and qualitatively, sorry. So the qualitative analysis, as you mentioned, is going to be based on content analysis and thematic analysis. Within the content analysis, we will target both the macro skills and the micro skills, as you mentioned, the language use. So we have, let's say, in the thematic analysis, we will mainly target the macro skills, but also we will devote one section to language use and yes, of course, analyze the use of the language, to what extent they have, improved compared to the pretest, and which language, let's say, aspects or linguistic aspects have improved more than others, and so on. Although this is not mainly the focus of our study, it is part of it, of course, but we will focus more on the higher order skills.
Yes.
Of course, without neglecting the micro skills. Yeah.
Thank you, Doctor.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes, yeah, sure, Dr. Mahmoud. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for this informative presentation. I'm really interested in this.
Thank you for attending.
Thank you. I used students' journaling as one of the tools to collect data, and I found it a little bit challenging because it was kind of a new concept. I used it with foundation students, and I tried to help them to speak up their mind. And I said to them, choose the language you like. For example, some of them wrote in Arabic, some of them in English, some of them both. But the bigger challenge was they were not ready to criticize, for example, the lesson. If it's boring, if the teacher did something not very, they did not something by the teacher. So the concept was not easy, and it took me a long time to tune them in. And then after that, they were able to produce something very significant and interesting. Did you face this problem while using journaling with your students?
That's great. Thank you very much for sharing your experience. It's just, it's somehow similar to what you were saying, except that we introduced the project at the very beginning. We introduced the aims, what the research is going to be about. We talked to the students about what kind of expectations we have from them, what kind of tasks they will be doing, etc. And we somehow helped them understand. I know it took time as well for us. It's not easy, as you mentioned. Probably our students are not foundation students, but there is not really a big difference. It's just like a very tiny, let's say, difference. So we encourage them to write whatever they think, as you mentioned, although it does not really, the focus of the journaling here is not about the class itself. It's about what they have learned, what challenges they faced, what feelings they had. It's not mainly about how good the let's say how well the lesson went or how boring it is, etc. But still, they commented on the benefits of the feedback they had from the teachers on the experiences. So the focus is somehow different, probably from yours. However, I think maybe they needed more encouragement from you at the beginning. They needed to know what reflection means, how to do it. So probably you could have given some samples. And somehow the atmosphere of the classroom also helps. So if the teacher uses more encouragement, positive feedback, let's say some strategies, some effective strategies like self-encouragement, like self-expression itself, etc. These would help a lot in letting them, express their ideas more, let's say, openly. I know it takes time and it depends on students. Some of them are not motivated to do it at all, but you've got to encourage them and you need to be very patient. So that was one of the limitations we had, but it's mainly on keeping the students motivated. It takes really so much effort and time and patience from the teachers and as well as from the students. Have I answered your question, Dr. Mahmoud? So there is another question. Great, thank you. Was journaling assigned as homework or did the student reflect during the class? So yes, as I said, we used two types of journaling. The first one was dialogic for several weeks, for 6 weeks, the first part of the semester. And actually, we used dialogic journaling as a homework, and it was, let's say, they submitted it online, and the feedback was provided also online. So this is why it was called dialogic. It's kind of a dialogue between the teacher and the student. And we use a collaborative journaling in the classroom where students as a group, small group or team, discussed their challenges, their experience in general feelings, etc. And then because they were conducting projects together, like in groups, so the reflection was on that. And they and then we designed a leader in each group to type the final draft and share it online. But of course, we had everything organized in a Google Drive. Yes, so it was both at home, like a homework and classwork. But for the homework, we already introduced the idea in the classroom. We explained to them how to do it. They had a first draft in the classroom. And then through time, they were able to do it without our help. They just needed feedback to improve. Any more questions?
Thank you, Doctor. I just want to let everyone know that the evaluation form link has been shared with all of you in the chat box. So please, everyone, if you can just dedicate 1 minute of your time to do it.
Right.
Any more question?
So am I doing, or am I completing the form as well, Dr. Faisal?
No, Dr. Samira.
Okay.
This is for the participants, and we will share
Right.
the results with you.
All right. Thank you.
Right?
Thank you very much.
Okay. So I think that's it. On behalf of everyone present here today, Dr. Samira, I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude
Thank you very
for
much.
your knowledge and for your expertise that you kindly shared with us today.
It's a pleasure.
And thank you for everyone for your time, dedication, and valuable contributions as well. We look forward for future opportunities to learn from your expertise, Dr. Samira, inshallah. And everyone, thank you again for your time. And inshallah, we will share future webinars, future presentations with you all. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Faiza, and thank you all for attending this presentation and participating. It was really great. I would like to add that after we complete the analysis of the results, probably by mid next semester, maybe, or sometime, I don't know exactly, but next semester, inshallah, we would like to, myself and my partner, share our results, so we could invite attendees for an online maybe session like this one, or we could also visit your institution. And as I mentioned sometime earlier, I would be very happy also to present workshops on any other, let's say, topics, including this one probably. So thank you very much again for this opportunity.
That would be great, Dr. Samira. That's a very kind offer of you. For sure, we will keep in touch. Any update in I would myself, I'm very interested knowing what kind of analysis you will end up with and what type of contribution. Is there any future recommendation for those who are keen or interested in exploring this a little bit more? Is there any research gap that you think future researchers might consider or look at?
Yeah. Would you like me to answer now, or?
Yes, please. Because a lot of people here are interested in hearing what future opportunities out there in regards to reflective journaling in classroom.
Actually, yeah, I was going to talk about this in for our next steps, let's say, and
okay.
I haven't really added much, but I was going to talk about the limitations. We had some challenges with the choice of the sample, with the sample size and procedures, with students' motivation to take part in the study. Data collection, we had some kind of risk of withdrawal, so it's a bit hard, but we are also intending to implement reflective journaling in other contexts, such as foundation levels, because this one was not implemented in foundation level, let's say, context. We're also interested in comparing humanities versus sciences and other aspects, and we would like to integrate affective strategies as another variable in the study. Probably we will keep some of what we've done, let's say, the nature of journaling, the implementation process, etc. But we're interested in, let's say, of course, this phase is for us to evaluate as you said, the challenges we had and what we're still interested in, working on in the future. Although, I would say, thinking aloud as a technique of research is very demanding, we also thought we might probably use it for, like a limited sample of the study in a future, in a future study as part of this one or a different one. So these are some of our ideas. As I said, the data analysis is still in process, so we cannot make, final conclusions and make a clear decision just based on preliminary results. But we are still thinking of extending, or expanding this type of research into other
this again. Inshallah, when we see you again.
Inshallah. Thank you so
we'll ask
much,
this
Dr.
question again.
Faiza.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for your time, for the great organization, for answering my emails in time. It was really very nice working with you, and I'm looking forward to future presentations, workshops, and maybe just attend some of our colleagues' presentations there, hopefully in the future, inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you very much,
Thank you
Dr.
very
Samir,
much.
once again, and thank you for everyone attending. We'll see you, inshallah, in the future.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Thank you.